All right, so welcome to another edition of the Lay of the Land podcast, which, as we all know, is the #1 rated podcast. Did you guys know that?
In Fricke's.
No, the U.S. National Association of Podcasts. I told you this is the last.
Fantastic.
Wow.
#1 rated podcast.
I know that now.
But you're not supposed to talk. They introduce you.
Yeah. He's got to go.
So, welcome to the next edition of the podcast. So, we have a very exciting show. This is a history-making show because this is our first remote recording in the history of the Lay of the Land podcast. So, if you don't know, we're at a bowling alley. It's in Crown Point. Probably the #1 rated bowling alley in Crown Point.
I would think.
I would dare say that. It's a bold statement, but I think so. So, with the bowling alley pen right here. So as you know, the fans of the show, which are plentiful, this is a show about Crown Point, anything to do with Crown Point and its history and people that live in it. So we thought that having two local Crown Point legends as our podcast guests would be a great show. So the two guests here, we have Mr. Bruce Fricke, who was kind enough to let us invade his establishment. So thank you, Bruce. Thank you for getting dressed up for the show.
Thanks for being
Appreciate
here.
that. And then Mr. Tim Heidbreder. Thank you, Tim, for coming on the show. And
It's a real pleasure.
although I did say there was we do have the budget to pay you. That was not true. But thank you anyway for
That's good. I like that.
I'm very excited about the show. Like I said, I love all things Crown Point. You guys are definitely either everybody knows your name or they know one of you personally. So I know you guys got a lot of great stories to share about Crown Point and the people in it. So that's kind of where we're at. So as we know, the co-host is Anthony Schlueter. Anthony,
Hello, everybody. How we doing?
doing good. How was your month?
It's nice.
Doing anything exciting?
Went to a couple softball games.
Yeah.
The normal stuff.
Yeah, we had like business developments and a lot of new businesses coming to Crown Point.
We do. We always have new stuff. We've had a lot of grand openings, as everybody's aware if they're watching Facebook and stuff. So a lot of new business constantly opening up, and a lot of new and exciting stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot, as you know, there's a lot more in the pipeline, and so it's almost a daily thing, a phone call or email about
Something new and somebody wanted to come here. So it's definitely a place where business wants to come to develop.
Yeah, definitely. So, we also have Adam Graper, Pace Department Leader, voted the best Pace Department Leader in the city. Very nice to have you, Adam.
That's a word they don't like to give out.
That's true. So you don't have a microphone, so probably have to talk.
We're good.
We're going to slash the budget a little bit.
It's okay.
And then
We're good.
the brains and brawn behind the podcast, Mary, she's way over there off camera. Want to say hi, Mary?
Hi, Mary.
Very nice.
Now, I think
Good.
we should tell the live studio audience as well.
We do.
Probably twice as much as we've had before. So
We actually have
growing.
you can't see it because we don't have the cameras facing that way, but as we can see, we have a live studio audience.
I thought we were an
Uh,
audience.
Yeah, it was very, they're all waving. We were asked to keep it down and keep the signs. You can hold the signs. So it's a very exciting show all around. So since we're at your home base, Bruce, I guess we'll start with you, right?
Right? Yep.
So now you're a lifelong Crown Point guy, right?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So did you go to Crown Point High School?
Yep. We started. My dad's families are all from here. My dad's family was farmers out here on the east side of town, and he married a Bruce triplet. They were from Crown Point, and the Bruces were all from Crown Point. They were originally from Winnemac, but it was Bruce and Bruce attorneys at law, and they were in Crown Point back in the 1800s.
Oh, really?
And so the Bruces started here probably before the Frickes did. And I don't go quite back that far myself to know. But I know they're out in the cemetery. I water their flowers all the time.
Right. So you're a lifelong Crown Point. So what year did you graduate high school? How old are you?
72. I'm 68. I'll be 69. And this will be our 63rd and final year at Fricke's.
I've heard that before.
Yeah. I heard that like a
What are
decade
the
ago.
odds on it?
Yeah.
3-1 odds?
No, this is my last year. I'm
This
going
is
to
it.
give it up.
Oh, you
I
got
figured this was a good day to call it at your podcast.
breaking news there, I dare say.
Yeah,
Right?
I figured I'm going to tell it at Pete's podcast that this is my last year, so everybody knows now this is it for me this last year. You want to come out and have a party or Christmas party or?
So I'm assuming Tim's made you a nice lowball offer.
Yeah.
Yeah, oh, yeah. It'll be lowball.
We don't want the building, I want the property.
Yeah, it'll be lowball. I know that.
You announced that you were going to run for mayor here at Fricke's.
I did.
I
That's
did.
true.
So
yeah.
there's a lot of history behind announcements here.
Yeah, that's right. The night of the caucus, we stopped at Fricke's.
Right.
We've had mayors come and go around here. We had Erlenbach that lived about 2 blocks away down here back in the, what was that, 50s?
Marvin Erlenbach.
Marvin Erlenbach was the mayor.
Yep.
Right.
And we got the mayor of Bridgeport, actually, Tim Heidbreder sitting there.
Yeah, so Tim,
Bridgeport.
you're also lifelong.
Born and raised in Crump.
So you went to Crown Point High School.
Pretty sure I did. My dad knew the superintendent real well. So I'm sure I got a diploma. I don't know how I ever got it, but I've got one.
Does it say like General Mills?
But I do have a diploma from Crown Point High School.
Yeah.
I was born and raised right down the street here, 141 North Grant.
Is that house still here?
Yeah, it's still there.
Really?
That's where we lived. My family was so poor they couldn't pay attention. I mean, they just didn't. They couldn't put a down payment on a free lunch, but they were good people.
It's been working. I've been waiting to break that one out.
Trying to keep it clean, Pete. But anyway, yes, I'm from Fricke. I'm from Grand Street, just like the Fricke's, and that's how we met.
Yeah, so
Bill
yeah.
Fricke and I have been best friends forever. And then there was a tag along. His name was Bruce.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're older than Bruce.
Oh yeah, I'm 73. Bill's 73, and Bruce is 68.
So then, how did you guys first meet and start? Were you like childhood friends and hanging out with each other?
The bowling alley here, probably. Bill and I were in Little League together, but I mean, there was always the bowling alley.
All the kids kind of hung around.
Yeah.
All the neighborhood.
Because your dad
Dad started. He didn't build it. He bought it from the gentleman's name was George Rasky. He owned it first, and my dad bought it in December '59.
And it's always been at this site, right?
Yep.
So that's how you guys first met, hanging out here
Oh,
as youngsters.
Yeah, this is Bridgeport.
Right.
This is the north side of town, and it's called Bridgeport.
and
That's the nickname for it.
And they duly named the new park over Bridgeport. I had tears in my eyes.
I think that was.
I got tears in my eyes when I saw that sign. We put our own sign up there that everybody probably knows now. We put our own sign up there in this corner before the base brick and mortar one went up.
Yeah.
When the brick and mortar went up, I had tears in my eyes.
Yeah, this is a good
It's
sense.
truly now documented Bridgeport Park.
Right. So how long was it? At what age then did you kind of like take over the bowling and like responsible for the operations of it?
Well, as my dad got older, he started going more and more fishing trips up to Minnesota with his friends from around here. I started taking over, and I had a degree in electronics, so that's what I was going to do. But I hung around here. And,
Wait, you got a degree in electronics?
yeah,
I did not know that. I wonder if the general public knows that.
actually, I went to.
Put you together with a degree in electronics.
It was pretty well renowned, but it was Valpo Tech. So in Valpo,
Nice.
obviously in Valpo. But the Technical Institute was a real old, very old institute. It's not there anymore. It was on the west side of Valpo there on 231. What is that? Goes into Hobart.
Yeah.
Right there where you go across the bridge by railroad tracks. That was Valpo Tech. It was a renowned electronics school back in its own day. Radio days.
So
Microwave.
what were you hoping to do? So you went there. I mean, what was your?
Well, I was going to probably plan on doing something in the electronic field. I got an associate degree.
Yeah.
So then I just hung around here, and Dad was still needing help, and he didn't really want to run it.
Yeah. So about what age was that?
I was 25. Yeah, I'm still going to school over there, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah. So really, so it's 40 some years.
Yeah.
This
Well,
has kind of been.
it burned down. My dad died in '82 in January, and it burned down in May.
Yeah.
So this building was built in '82 with my brother and sister's consent to go along with it.
Yeah. So when did it burn out?
82.
82.
So then we rebuilt this facility.
Yeah.
So this is already 40 years old. So
And the bowling alley was on the other side.
yeah, on the old place, that both lanes were on the other side.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah. This is one of those fires that.
And
Crown Point, y'all.
when Pete said we're #1 bowling alley, that's because we're the only one right now. The other one's closed.
That's words.
Still number one.
Yeah, still #1. That's right.
But it was nice that it was kind of him saying it.
Yeah. Very, very good. So then, all right. So you're kind of the developer guy, right?
Yes.
So how did you always know you wanted to do that? How'd you get in that line?
Well, when I graduated from high school, I was 17. I couldn't get a job anywhere because I wasn't 18. And right behind Fricke's here, there's an alley. If you go down and up on Goldsboro, there was a sheet metal shop there called Lake Heating and Ventilating. And I went in there and I watched these guys breaking all this metal up and running through these machines. So it kind of caught my attention. And so the guy hired me to sweep the floors at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, there would be guys working at night, and I just stand there and watch them. And I kind of like, yeah, right, yeah,
Stalker material.
yeah. And I kind of took a liking to it. And then within a year or so, I was out working with the crews, putting heating and air conditioning systems in housing, new housing. I remember my dad worked in the bank back then, and he says, I'm going to go into business for myself, Dad. And he goes, well, what are you going to do? And he says, there's already 7 or 8 heating and air conditioning companies in Crown Point here. And I said, well, I'm going to do new construction. That's all I want to do. He says, oh, this new construction isn't going to last.
What year was that?
67, 68.
Yeah.
He says, this isn't going to last. He wanted me to be a Lutheran minister, but I couldn't see myself doing that. But anyway,
Can you imagine that?
so anyway, after working for them for a couple of years, I started doing side work, and then I started in a 2-car garage over on Clark Street. I bought the sheet metal brake and some of the equipment that you need to put Pittsburgh and stuff like that on there. And I went into business for myself, Crown Heating and Pool. And then over the years, I got to where I went from 1 employee to over 30 years. I went from 1 employee to 60. But we did, at the end, we were doing hotels all over the country, traveling around doing sheet metal work on them. But in between, I did a lot of residential around here.
Yeah.
I probably put the heating and air conditioning in at least a third of every house out of Lakes and Four Seasons.
So initially, that was just all you owned the business, and that was you weren't doing any land development.
Well, actually, I was, because once I built a building to put Crown Heating in, as soon as I got it up and under roof, somebody wanted it.
Yeah.
So I said, all right, well, I'll go build another one. I'll move Crown Heating over there. So I did that about a dozen times. And their final resting place now is over on, down from Phil and Sons. They're on whatever street that is. But anyway,
Summit Street.
no, take Summit and then go north on whatever it is.
By the old speedway track.
Yeah, right. But
Yes.
anyway, there's a subdivision in there, an industrial park in there, and I developed that. And it was, it's called Arrowhead Industrial. And my cousin and I, who lived up on the road, Stone Road there to the north of this land that I bought, in the spring we'd go, after the heavy rains, we'd go down and pick up, hunt for arrowheads. And I should have brought a collection of them, I forgot about that. But anyway, I always wanted to own some land around there. And the guy by the name of Louis Holmeyer owned it, and I bought it from him, and then I put the road in there, and I developed all those lots and stuff.
So that's how because you found so many arrowheads. On
That's
that
the name of
property.
it.
Yeah, so that's how you came up.
It's Arrowhead Industrial
You're
Park.
all wondering what moron.
Now, wait a minute. Now,
That's a great
if you
story.
take Arrowhead back to the first stop sign,
Yeah,
and you turn right, that's Y2K Park. I also did that. You didn't even know that, did you?
I did not.
There's a
know
lot you got to learn.
that. That's why we're doing
Okay.
a podcast.
So now, wait a minute. before you turn right, you're in Millennium Park.
Yes,
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got 3 industrial parks there that touch each other.
So you developed Millennium Park too?
Oh, yeah, all of it. I built almost everything in there.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the reason everything in there is masonry instead of metal buildings and stuff is because John Curley owned Crown Brick over on Summit Street. And he had his own block plant there.
Yeah.
And I told him, I said, you know what, I want to do some really nice buildings in here, and I want them to be all masonry. He says, well, you come to the right guy. So it was in the covenants that you had to have, masonry buildings in it, and they all are.
Yeah.
So that, would you say that location, that was your first big development? Because you built buildings and other, you have the Caleb's Corner out on Broadway. That was much later.
Yeah, that was much later. I bought a farm south of town, south of the old Yuki, and I called it Hidden Valley. It's right at the dog leg in the road, and if you're not looking, it's to the right. So that's why I called it Hidden Valley. You go right by it. Nobody knew where it was, and there was 25, 30 lots in there. I developed all that. That's the only residential development I did. But I mean, I could go on and on and on. You don't want to hear about all that.
We'll get to all that. So obviously, Fricke's has been open for a number of years. You've been here.
63 of them.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
pretty much your entire life in some
Yep.
capacity. But so, I mean, what do you like about? You must get a lot of enjoyment out of running the business and being in
sure.
here every day
Yeah.
because you are in here every single day.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you like about coming into Fricke's?
Well, I don't know. I just figure it's, I've met so many friendships here. Everybody comes in and pretty much I've just met and they all become friends. It's like just hanging out with a bunch of friends most of the time. It doesn't seem like it's a whole lot of work.
Yeah.
At times it's a lot of work, and at times it's not. A lot of times it is not.
Yeah.
That's probably why I'm still here.
I think Fricke's is one of those, it's your classic, the neighborhood bar. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously have the bowling alley here, but so people have been coming in here for, like you said, 30, 40 years. It's a lot of respects, it's the same.
And that's kind of why I was saying this is my last year, because all my friends have all gotten older like I have.
Yeah.
So there's not many of them around here left anymore. And I think it's just time for me to move on and let younger people take over and do something, go with it another direction or whatever.
Well, what would you do? Would you sell the building or you would sell the business?
Yep.
No.
I'm done with the bar business, much less the bowling alley business.
Yeah, it's I don't know. That's kind of it in a nutshell. Bowling alleys are kind of a tough commodity anymore in golf courses. You see them closed everywhere, and especially bowling alleys.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Crown Point, we have obviously a lot of great locations and places to go and hang out. But there's something special about here because, like I said, it's the same.
Well, we
people
pretty
and
much
a lot of
outlived so
respect.
many
Yeah.
different. The other bowling alley been a bowling alley a long time whatsoever.
Yeah.
It's also gone through about 12 or 14 owners.
Yeah. Because I think we've been coming here. I know you've been coming here since like you're 14. Well, I mean, 21.
Not a day before.
Since bowling started in the 40s around Crown Point, a little before that, there's only been 2 owners, Rasky and our family.
Because we used to have the Katie Lanes up by the post office, but that started years after Fricke's was open, right?
It started back in the 50s, early
is it that
50s,
old?
I would say. Whenever Kaiser Dunn started.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think one of the best things you've done in this establishment is you just created an atmosphere where people just want to come and hang out.
Yeah.
I've never seen any kind of issues going on in here. Everybody kind of comes in,
Trouble,
gets along, talks with each other, whether you know them or not.
Well, you're always going to come here and find somebody that you know is going to be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Try to keep it local friendly. No
Yeah.
no trouble. Everybody's welcome, but everybody knows they got to behave themselves. Pretty much, you know.
Yeah. So if the time comes where, now, what's you're married, right?
Right.
So
yeah.
what's your wife's name?
Dawn?
So what's Dawn say about you wanting to get rid of?
She just said what Anthony just said. I don't believe you. We'll wait and see when that happens.
Yeah. So what would you do if you ultimately?
I don't know. I'll hang around, but you know, it'd be nice. I see my older friends. You know, they're all starting to head south and go somewhere in the wintertime. And,
Yeah.
You know, and I don't have to do it that much. I don't really need to do this anymore.
Yeah.
But it's all I have done, and so I'm afraid to leave.
Yeah. Well,
Because
I see that.
I don't want. I can't sit at home in a recliner and watch the sun go down.
Right. Yeah.
So.
Well, if you do, I mean,
But
you know,
I got to pull the pin somewhere because I am getting older, and this is 40 years old around here now. Things are starting to have to be replaced, so it's major expenses. You know, rooftop units, pin sitters are getting very dated. Lanes like these are getting very dated. The next person I would say should replace them, and the lanes.
yeah.
Extremely expensive.
Well, I give you nothing but credit. Like I said, I've been coming here for a long time, and one of the reasons I like coming here is it's just so laid back. You come in and watch, you know, Cubs or Bears or Sox, and just have a drink of your choice and just kind of relax. And
Yeah, we've known each other for a long time. We've been talking about that. You know, you were there. I'm sure most people know that you were the police chief, and I talked to a lot of his retired either sergeants or captains or any of them, and they, you know, I knew so many of them.
yeah,
I was on the fire department at one time, so I knew so many of those guys also that have all retired or gone.
yeah,
You know, a lot of them were saying, you know, we just never had to come down here.
yeah. I mean, as a
Never had
business
we've
owner,
never had a call here. We've never had to come down here. You had no problems.
That's true. That's true.
So,
Yeah,
but I was always here and make sure people had pretty much behave themselves.
for the most part.
Yeah.
But I mean,
I think being a neighborhood bar too, the patrons kind of looked out for it. So
Yeah.
it felt like it was, you know, it's kind of
Yeah,
their place to
absolutely.
be. So when things got out of hand, they kind of just took care of it, settled it down, and
yeah,
things went back to normal.
yeah. I mean, and it's like after like a home high school football game, you know, it's the same people that after the game, and they're going to be filtering in and do their stuff. So,
Yep.
I mean, you have been and Adam and Anthony will agree, a tremendous asset to our business community for a long time. I mean, if you say Fricke's, even if you don't come here, you know what the person's talking about, the establishment, and just kind of the history of it. So I can't thank you on behalf of the city for doing all that you've done.
Thank you. It's been a lot of fun, and there's been a lot of, you know, we used to have, everybody talks about the old, we used to have beach parties there and stuff.
Yeah, I remember the beach
And,
party. Yeah.
It got so, you know, people started having their class reunions revolve about around the dates of when the beach party was going to be.
Yeah.
So, high school class reunions would be out here on the weekends.
So how many years did you do that beach party?
It was about 12, I think.
And then why did you
Tim's-
ultimately stop?
The wrong regime was in charge uptown, and it was getting pretty big, and parking became a problem.
Yeah.
We're here in a residential neighborhood. Noise became a problem, and people started complaining, and a couple of bad neighbors here and there.
So it was really just it became so successful it outgrew
Yeah,
the place.
and then it killed. And then people were coming to the meetings and kind of forcing their hand at the city hall. So they made a sound ordinance and stuff, and then that killed.
Yeah.
There's no more sound after 10 or 10:30, and here comes the police and said you got to shut it down.
Well, for the years
And
that it was going,
that
you
was-
guys been to the beach.
That was the
party, right?
rules.
Absolutely.
They were following the rules that were made. So
Yeah. So I mean, I
That
think
killed
everybody
it.
knows
That
the
was
freaking beach party.
then,
So they were
Tim took over with Buddy and Pals out there. They carried it on out there, but they were out more in a resident or industrial park area.
makes a
They
big
didn't
difference.
have as many neighbors like I have right here in this residential. area, and they had lots of parking, so
Going back to the
they got
history
away with
that,
it.
Bruce, with the, your dad, you're talking about the 50s and stuff. So Tim, you might know, if you look back, and I used to have coffee every morning with Lovey Wise, and Gerard, Bob Zott, Richmond.
Yeah.
All the taverns that, especially in Lovey's day, that would exist on
Oh, yeah.
all the corners.
Well, Bub Wise lived down here. His family's
one of
down
those
here.
that, yeah, I mean, is it something that stemmed off of that because it
Yeah.
featured that part of the
Yeah.
neighborhood, or this part of the city always had that tavern,
Yeah.
corner tavern.
Bub lived a few blocks over in here. You know, they say, like Tim could say the same thing, I'm sure. But back in 1800s and late 1800s, this was the busiest part of town.
We had the old
Yeah, the
rail
two-
coming through,
Yeah,
right?
2 railroad tracks coming through. Those were the Pensy, and that was the EJ&E over there where
Erie
Erie,
Lake Wem.
where he built.
Yeah, where the
Yeah.
track lounge is now, that was Kindberg's Tap. So there was a side track there, and work crews on railroad would pull in there and they'd spend the night there. And there were sleeping rooms upstairs. I think those rooms are probably still up there, unless
Yeah.
they gutted them. But that was Kindberg's Tap back in the turn of the century. And then over here, where Crown Brick is, right next door, there was a bar, was Ma Seymour's. It was an old lady, she ran it, and they called her Ma Seymour. And she had the same thing. There was a side track there, and the workers on the Erie Lackawanna would come in there, and they would sleep upstairs, and they would eat and get liquored up downstairs.
All the lumber yards were down here because you didn't
Yeah.
have big trucks then.
Yeah, I remember
All the
Blue
lumber yards, were down there. Everything that was to do with commercial activity, coal for everybody's houses, coal yards, the lumber yards, the oil, all the oil yards were all here
Yeah.
for house oil, coal, everybody. So everybody from Crown Point had to converge down here because that's where everything was at.
Yeah.
Because it all came out on these 2 rail tracks.
And there were 3 lumber companies that Roots owned. One here, one in Hebron, and one in Kells. So when the Penn Central went that way, they would be making their stops, dropping off lumber, coal, whatever.
Yeah.
But the Root family owns that. I mean, there was Clayton Root, Dave Root, and I forget the one brother's name over in Kells. But and then this over here was owned by the Henderlong family. There was an old Henderlong Lumber Company there, and it had been there since the turn of the century. I ended up buying that and tearing it all down once.
Oh, so. Sorry, Henderlock family. You worked hard on that.
And made Summit Street go through.
I made Summit Street go through.
He made Summit Street go through. A lot of people don't know that.
I didn't know that.
He was instrumental in making Summit Street
Well,
go through.
I was real instrumental in
Because their lumber yard was just sitting there, nobody wanted to buy it, everybody was afraid to death of it.
So I bought the
Tim
lumber
come
company,
in there
bought
and
the
just
ready
grabbed
mix
it.
plant. So then the city came to me. The city says, okay, you tear down those silos, the concrete silos, and get that ready mix plant out of the way. And we want to bring Summit Street through here.
Is it kind of what it is now? Is that kind of how you envisioned it taking off, like the industrial park?
Oh, yeah.
We're talking, between
So
Indiana and Broadway is what we're talking about.
is that where you connected it from, or from Main Street?
No, I connected to Maryville Road.
Railroad
Oh,
Road,
well,
yeah.
And connected it from there to Crown Brick. Because he used to go down Foot Street where Henderlong, the
There's a
hardware
dog
was,
leg
on one
there.
side lumber
Yeah.
company. And then you would go left, and then you would
Oh,
go
okay.
around a curve there. Well, we made it all straight.
It's almost like a maze going through the
Yeah,
park, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
I would say it's probably the main thoroughfare in Crown Point.
To the north side.
East-west.
Yeah,
To the north side.
Yeah,
absolutely.
it's worked out well.
Well, we thank you for doing that.
Well, you're welcome.
I believe informally it's called Heidbreder Boulevard. You guys have been friends for how long? What did you say? 40-something
62 years.
62
Yeah.
years. So you obviously know a lot about each other. So what's like one story that you can tell about Bruce?
Let him tell the first story about me,
All right.
and then I'll see if I owe him anything. We've had a lot of
What's-
fun.
yeah.
We've had a lot of fun here for all
Yeah,
these
you
years.
guys
God
always-
almighty.
Well, I can tell a couple of the real bad ones, but I won't go there. But,
We want to make Mary's editing job easy, so.
Oh.
he was great for, I don't know how you put it, cleaning up the neighborhood when you needed something cleaned out, and it was cheaper to burn it rather than haul it away.
So you own a demolition company?
Off the books.
Way off.
Yeah.
There was like a half an acre worth of trees.
But I don't know that officially, but the rumor had it that, and plenty of the locals were all on the same page as I
Well,
was.
Bullock was in on it with me. He piled everything up before we
All
left.
the locals pretty much on the same.
Well, back then, all right. Back
Heidbreder
then,
was the guy that
okay.
did all the cleaning.
Henry Lund Lumber had this gigantic building. It was maybe 30 foot tall, maybe 300, 400, 500 foot long. And it had this big black asphalt roof, rounded roof, barrel roof. So I went to the city of Crown Point and I says, hey, I want to put this thing on the ground and I want to burn it right there. Oh, you can't do that. You just can't do that. You can't. Well, today you could never do it.
You definitely could.
Okay, so I went and bought an oxygen mask. I made a big donation. It was cheaper to do that than to haul it off. So we set that on fire, and they were there for 7, 8 days watching it, even when it was smoldering, because then all the neighbors, they didn't know it was coming, and probably at that point in time, I got a bad reputation.
A little bit.
So when was that then?
It had to be in the 80s, somewhere in the early 80s.
Well, he had a lot of practice starting fires before that.
Done. Get him out of here.
So we'd have to have everybody in the crowd can do the internet research, go back to the local, whatever newspaper was out there, the Star, whatever covered the fire, whoever covered the fire. Gary Post, yeah, do the archives, and see if you can post it on our.
Well, and then I didn't get the okay to set another one down there on fire, but I knew that it wasn't close to anything. Remember, this is 40-some years ago. Nobody cared. I mean, there were no houses right by what we were doing, basically, maybe a couple. But,
But you got experience in
yes.
burning,
Very
so,
fine.
it's all under control.
We cleaned up all that down there, and if we hadn't, it'd still be sitting there, I think.
Right.
He's cleaned up a lot of areas in the town.
Yeah. I like tearing things up more than I like putting them back up.
Yeah.
In my next life, I'd like to be a demolition contractor.
So while you're still thinking of, so are you still in the development game, or
Oh, yeah.
you see yourself ever retiring?
I don't know. Some days I wish I hadn't gotten in as deep as I am, but no, I love what I'm doing right now. I'm building a big office building on the corner of Summit Street, Maryville Road for attorneys that are moving here from Cherville. We'll drove back into Vaucheck. You go down here to Anderson Street, you turn right, and you go about a block and a half, and on the left there's 3 small lots there, and they're all zoned I-1. Which I found out. So I went and I purchased those, and I've just spent the last couple of weeks cleaning that up. I don't know what I'm going to do there, but there's an alley behind it, and so I've got Anderson Street and the alley behind it. So I have opportunities to do stuff in there, especially with the zoning. Okay.
I-1's at a premium right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. There's no I-1 zone. There's lots around in this.
Nothing left.
Now.
Yeah.
And trying to get something going over here on the old Crown Point Lumber Company. Trying to work
That's
a deal
another-
over there.
That's another eyesore. Trap's been here for ever.
They'll have half the roof on that's caved in.
Yeah, it's been sitting there for 30 years. Empty.
But we're working on that. And
So now, do you have a similar threshold story about Bruce back in his younger days?
I don't know whether it was Bruce on the roof. Every time there would snow, when we get a wet snow, Bruce and his buddies would all be up on the roof. And every time a squad car went back by, they pounded with snowballs.
I think I drove by that. I think I was a victim of that one.
So there was a parking lot here, or somewhere around here, but there was a big pile of snow next door. And I'll never forget, Bruce's dad came up there, and Mike Farley was on the roof. And he yelled at Mike, "What are you doing up here on this roof and everything?" And old Mike, he jumped off the building.
Well, we didn't just, I don't know, we had the squad cars. We had a lot of cars.
Yeah.
But it was great hiding up there because they throw, where the hell did they throw that snowball from? You know,
You were a grown man.
we're 12 feet above them.
Right.
And then all of a sudden, the one day that we got caught up there, because we always knew to stay off the flat roof. That's where the tavern was. You hear us becking around up there. We were over on the bowling alley side usually. And one of these guys that worked at NIPSCO, his name was Steiner, and he came climbing up the weatherhead of the electric service. And he came up there chasing us up there on the roof because we had hit him. And he come chase us up on the roof. We all scattered, and so they started running across the tavern roof. And then my dad heard us, and he came up there.
Dan?
Yeah, well, you got a couple of. I'm leaving. I told you guys to stay off this roof,
Yeah.
And I know, Mr. Fricke, I'm leaving.
One of the stories, and I guess, well, I don't know if it's true or not, but it's kind of a legendary story about the Heidbreder family.
Yeah.
Is that your dad once had, what's the connection between your dad and the old courthouse? Was it your
There's a
dad?
big connection. There's a picture of it right there. I brought you. You can have that for your office or whatever you want. My dad worked across the street at First National Bank for 45, 50 years.
No, that's on the corner. That's
It's where the pawn shop is now.
okay.
On the east side. And when he retired, he was 70 years old. He'd be 115 now. So it was 45 years ago. And but he went across the street and he got to looking around in it. It needed a lot of work. The roof needed to be all fixed and everything. So he got a bunch of people in town interested. There's always those people that hate to see anything tore down. I'm a complete opposite. But he found those people. Plus, he worked in the bank all those years, so he knew people with money. So he'd get donations and stuff, and he says, "Hey, let's see if we can't save this." So the county was going to tear it down. They had $80,000 earmarked to tear it down and haul it off, and then they were going to put a big parking lot or just a parking there. So he went to Rudy Bartolome. He was the commissioner at that time, and he says, "Hey, Rudy, you guys are getting ready to tear that down. I think I've got a group of people interested in saving it." And Rudy says, "Oh, really?" And he says, "Yeah, well," he says, my dad Wilbur, he says, "Well, Rudy, you got 80,000 earmarked to tear it down. You can't tear that down and haul it off for 80,000, He says, "You're right. And he says, what do you want to do?" Wilbur says, "I'm going to put this non-for-profit Lake Courthouse Foundation together, which still exists and runs it. And for $1, I'm going to give you $1, Rudy, and you're going to sell me that, and you're going to give us the 80,000, which was risky because you were dealing with these commissioners up here, and they probably had a way to get some of that 80,000, but they didn't. So then the roof needed to be totally redone. So my dad knew this old German Lutheran from Town and Blank. His name was Bill Mueller. He was head of Town and Blank, Michigan City, and he got Wilbur called him, and he says, "Hey, I want you to come over here and look at this roof." Well, if you look at that, there's a big steeple in the middle. And they had to get steeple jacks eventually to come in there and repair all that up there, which there's only 11 of them in the United States. They kind of like hang from a cloud. I don't know how they fasten themselves up there. But anyway, they took the 80,000. Town of Blank says, "Give us the 80,000. We're going to work on it. We'll get the whole roof changed. We'll get it dried in." Well, 236,000 on top of that, it was all done. And Town of Blank picked up the tab for everything.
No kidding.
Yeah, that was before no Franciscan and Town of Blank, was just Wilbur and him were buddies. And at that time, then he started working on each of the offices in there. He got people to donate all kinds of time to go up there, redo the hardwood floors and the marble floors and stuff like that. And it is what it is now. Everything's really done now.
Yeah. So was there anything in the courthouse? Was it being used for anything at that time?
No, they just closed a year before that and moved out north.
Yeah. So there was nothing.
No.
No offices. Or
No.
Just sitting there.
What year is that, Tim?
I'm gonna say it was 1975.
Yeah.
But okay, now like when that was in its heyday, there were a lot of famous people got married there.
Oh yeah, we're the marriage bed.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cassius Clay,
Yep.
Rudolph Valentino,
Yeah.
some vice president of the United States. I can't remember which one it was, but a lot of people would go there. It was a marriage mill because they could come get a license and they didn't have to have blood work done to
That's right.
get married. And then across the street, there was an old JP. His name was Harvey Mites. He happened to be my great uncle. And you go over there, and with your license that you got there, you go right across the street, you get married, you get hitched right there, and it was a done deal. You didn't spend an hour or 2 hours getting that and getting married. So that's why it was called the marriage mill.
Yeah. I mean, do you ever think? I mean, that's what Crown Point is. You think Crown Point, it's the old courthouse.
Oh,
I mean, do you ever think about, man, if history had taken a different path and your dad had not stepped up and
Yeah, you know,
brokered this deal
you
with
see it
the
where you
county?
go certain places, you know?
Yeah.
You see a square and you see, you know, there was probably a courthouse there or something, but it's torn down and it's just a park.
Yeah. So I
See
never
it when
knew
you go
that to
different
be
places,
true,
old
and I
towns.
definitely didn't know about
Yeah, you
the
think, God,
enormous
who
work
still
and
got it?
big donation.
Town of Blankston picked up
There's
200
towns that
some
tore 'em
quarter
all
million
down.
anyway. And then, of course, the county had given over the 80,000, so that went a long way back in 1980, or
So-
1975.
So it's from that point that it was actually became the property and owned by the Courthouse Foundation.
Lake Courthouse Foundation.
So they've been in charge of it since the mid '70s. But yeah, if you just think anything in history, you just think if it would have went a different way.
Right, yeah.
Just
Imagine if
change
it
everything.
wasn't there right now.
I mean,
It's become the symbol of the town.
Yeah, I mean everything.
Just look how everything connects. I mean, your family's been here forever. I'm sure Pete, you grew up here. My family, it goes back to the Geisels, the Hubers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody's somehow, it's funny that you said, well, that was my uncle here, and it's everybody's.
Yeah, right.
You stay here long enough, you kind of like, I don't know if we're related to. I was telling my daughter, better watch who you date. You've been here forever.
Yeah.
There's a genealogy here to figure out who. But you know, looking back on how everything connects back, and how this network of just it's called good people. They'll just say, hey, I got a little bit of coin. I got this. I'm gonna help out for this, and it comes together, and then something cool happens.
Something
You know,
comes
something comes
out of
together
it.
from everybody putting their,
Yeah.
you know, leaving their personal side behind and just doing the common good type stuff. I think you've seen that back a lot, especially my grandfather, you know, going back and how, you know, you picked up your neighbor, you were friends with it, even if you were competing, you know, you always worked together, and
Yeah.
that's kind of gone, and you build these friendships and partnerships that people don't leave. People can sit around for generations and generations.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Yeah, like this. I mean, just
Yeah.
Jim's dad. Just okay. Mary, this is going to happen, and he stepped up and, I mean, literally changed what would be the course of Crown Point.
Yeah.
Just from that one good act.
Probably never foresaw that.
His dad was very well respected. There was only two banks in town, First National Bank, and Commercial Bank. Those only two.
It's neat seeing, even if you look at the local history books, the local how those names repeat and tie back to different.
Yeah. I mean, because I grew up right next door to the old homestead. It's a parking lot now, but that was my family house. So going up to the square, that was like a big deal. So like the news agency there, my dad would be in middle school. My dad would send me up
Did you go
pipe
up the
tobacco.
steps or how you stayed down?
I stayed down. Yeah.
Did you go to Tipton's grocery store?
Where was that at?
Right next to Blanchard's record store.
I do remember the record store.
There was a bank,
Yeah.
there was a Christian reading room in a liquor store.
Oh.
Guy by my,
Next door to each other.
guy by my talc owned that liquor store, and then there's a Christian reading room.
Yeah.
There, get all kinds of Christian literature. And then there was Don Tipton, but his dad.
Terry,
But it was Tipton's grocery store.
Right.
I mean, they sold odds and ends and a lot of produce.
Yeah.
Then there was Blanchard's Record. Then there was Jim Clark's Sports Shop. Then there was the Lighthouse.
I remember
But the
the
Lighthouse
Lighthouse.
was a sportsman's club, and it still does. It had 2 lanes in the basement bowling alley.
Oh.
Yeah.
yeah.
Because I owned that once.
You did?
Oh, that was an experience.
I remember when it was a lighthouse.
Yeah. Well, I bought it at a sale and turned it into the courtyard. And then when I got into it, I got in the basement. And, there's 2 bowling alleys down there. They're all covered up with wood because they were storing everything in the bar on top of it. But that was the sportsman's club. And then across the street, obviously, there was a little restaurant, which is great hamburgers. And then there was Seaburger's hardware store.
Well, obviously the squares went through a lot of transformations to kind of the era you guys are talking about.
Yeah.
Then, the early 80s, And I mean, at one point it was, whether it was factual or not, you know, it was either an antique store or a bar.
Yeah.
And so, how have you guys? I mean, where it's at now, the square, with what has been brought in over the last, you know, decade, the restaurants, the atmosphere of it. I mean, what do you guys?
I don't care
what do you
for it.
guys? You do not care.
There's nowhere to park.
Well, but isn't that means the square is always busy?
It's always busy. There's just too many people in this town anymore to drive around. You can't drive around this town. I mean, if you want to park in a parking stall, you go around the square maybe 5 times, you might find one. Otherwise, you have to find an adjacent parking stall, and I'm area, and I got no problem with that.
Right.
I'm not going to go do that.
Right.
I'm going to go to the outskirts. I'm going to go to Whitehawk. I'm going to go to Broadway, Fahrenheit. I'm going to go to Buddy Pals. I'm going to do something like that. But Fricke's, of course, Fricke's a go-go. But the Crown Point is rocking.
Right.
I mean, those guys up there on that square, they are doing well, and I'm happy for them. Because they've got a big investment up there.
I think that's what people forget is that, you know, like the new construction going on right now. I mean, that's a major capital investment that somebody's putting in to the downtown.
Yeah.
And you don't know if it's going to take off or if it's not, but the capital investment is there.
Somebody said the bowling alley sold.
I heard it now, it fell through or something.
Oh, you're talking about the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, there was a lot of the rumors out there that the city had purchased the bowling alley, which is not true. We have not purchased the bowling alley, but I'd heard it was sold, but I didn't hear that the sale fell
What I'm putting out there is I
through.
think
Here we go.
I think if we can get Michael Schlueter to listen to this, we could get him and the mayor talking and do a little land swap.
First time he's leaned into the mic.
I'll make sure Michael
deal.
from Centur hears this.
Yeah. Well, that could be Fricke's too.
Oh,
Right?
No.
Oh.
No, the parking lot for the city.
Oh, the parking lot. Well, I mean, if you know, with the East Street parking,
You guys
all
own
the parking
own-
expansion we've done
Yeah.
on East Street.
Yeah.
Yes, that's great.
Talk
I
about-
can't believe how many cars you get in there where those 2 houses came down. It's
Yeah,
really
Just
nice.
north of the library.
Yeah.
it is.
The day
That's real
the day
nice.
we opened that lot, it was full.
Yeah,
So
Yep. The street
Great
parking
improvement.
we've added.
great improvement.
If you had the bowling alley and you had the Chase Bank tore down,
Yeah.
Crown Point was set for 20 years.
But take out Centur Drive-In, that's 1960. And Michael can
Let's not talk about tearing down the
The city owns the lot across from the post office, right across in their nice branch there. They can put a beautiful little drive-in, and then the city could have that nice big lot where it's wasting all the room where the drive-in is for Centur and put a beautiful parking lot.
I think we were trying. I mean, that's thanks for the input there, but I think it was like the partnership between the vibrance of the square and everybody that how many citizens go there. And a lot of them are from out of town. They just come here just for the square experience. That the partnership with the city is that okay, we can't. How can we increase the amount of parking spaces that we have? Because you're right. The number one thing is parking and traffic in Brown.
No better location would be right where that Centur Drive-In is. right behind the square. It's right there.
Yeah, it would be.
It's
You're right.
points blank zero. And that drive-up takes up so much room for so little.
yeah,
Yeah.
but it is privately owned.
It is
Yeah.
privately owned, so, and we are working on
Be a
a
nice
project
land swap,
between
though.
the municipal parking lot and the post office, trying to totally change, tearing stuff down. But your point's well taken. It's
Nice
I
land
see what you're
swap
saying.
with the corner lot that Schweitzer cleaned out. The ground's all cleaned out.
Yeah, the corner lot there. So what we've done is we've added 147 new parking stalls, just on East Street, right?
Oh, yeah, that's great.
That's nice.
Yeah, but no, I mean the square is in that Bullock Park. Because one of the things is that also is good about Crown Point is the amenities. I mean, people just want to, they want good streets, good schools, low crime. They just want to live their life, but they also want to have nice amenities that they can participate and go to if they choose to.
So it's great. You have baseball parks out here. They're just absolutely beautiful.
Yeah,
State-of-the-art
baseball
parks
parks.
out here.
You look at how it's changed.
Bulldog
I used
Park.
to pulling snowballs in cop cars. Now there's some other stuff to do.
Yeah, there wasn't
You know,
anything to do then. I was
especially the
trouble.
transition, you know, and stuff.
I mean, we played over there at the Little League field when we were kids, you know.
Yeah.
One field, and the rest were all out there in practice high school football field, and hardly any dirt on it.
Yeah.
The other extra fields.
I was sharing
we had the old Babe Ruth field. That was it.
the old Babe Ruth field. Yeah.
Yeah,
I was
that's what
sharing with
everybody played on in our days.
doing a
That's
project
like
at the Cal
facilities
Ripken,
now.
or the Cal Ripken field, and I was sharing it with them that's that raised, what's the municipal lot that's raised, that used to be the juvenile detention center, and they would overlook what was the B minor field at the time, and they had no clue that building had ever even was there. Did you play there when the?
Jubilee Center or
Yeah.
Little League?
Spent some time.
Well, you know.
Indiana Penals.
Yeah, right. Did you play at the Little League field when the juvenile center was there?
No, I believe that was. But the park, I don't believe there was parking that did come before or after. You used to have to come in off West Street there and kind of cut, you know, through it. They had, I think when I was there, they had maybe 2 fields. No, they had 3. They had T-ball.
Oh, okay.
Majors.
Years ago, that was Panther football.
Yeah, I remember.
To go back to some more history over here, those ballparks over here, over
The Babe Ruth field?
no,
The old
over
Babe
on
Ruth field?
over by
North Street.
Sports
where all the girls in the complexes.
Oh, sports bunch.
Yeah. That all really started from a guy that's never got any credit for it, Tom Caldwell.
Yeah.
And his name should be over there somewhere in that park because he's the guy who instigated that thing from day one years ago. He got the Army Corps of Engineers come over there and level some of that ground. And he made a couple of those temporary girls softball fields because he loves girls softball. And he got that all started over there by himself.
So
with
was
the
there
Army Corps of
anything there?
Engineers.
Or was
Nothing.
it just
It was all owned by the city, a lot of it, because that's when the sewer plant, they drew all their waste back there in that property. And he came in there and started cleaning that out with the Army Corps of Engineers to start all that over there. And then, actually, it was me and he drug a bunch of us out of bars and helped Jack Larson owned the bar, Tom Parks. We were all over there helping him put up his first chain link fences on the 2 girl softball fields.
So that was
We,
it was softball
drilled,
fields first.
drilled holes in there for the fence posts, set them, and then we were all out there helping pull chain, put the fences up on the home run fences.
There was a couple of fields out there. Was Wolverhampton out there yet?
Right,
Still?
yeah.
So we had Wolverhampton.
But that originally started from the girls softball with Tom Caldwell being the whole, he was the whole chain, he was the whole instigator of the whole thing.
You know who else was real big and then who helped Tom is Don Hefner.
Yeah,
Don
Yep.
Hefner was out there all the time.
yes he was.
Was that when the football was it even being used for a football?
No,
field then?
no,
that was
no.
This was before.
This
Sure.
was over
Softball,
there off of
Panther
113th, the softball was there. Yes, they had the Panthers over there on 109th.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, small facilities.
Just a great space for
But that all,
a setup.
someday his name should be recognized, or
Yeah.
it wouldn't be there without him, because he started it all.
And
He started those fields.
he was killed in an accident on 231 in Iowa,
Right,
where there's been a lot of accidents there through the years.
yeah,
This 25, 30 years ago, he got killed.
yeah, right.
No, I never. I thought the
Tom
original use was the Panther football.
Yeah, no, it
No,
started with the girls
girls
softball. He started the whole thing.
Yeah.
And he had no money or anything, it was all donated. He got the donations
Yep.
from the Army Corps of Engineers, come out there and start leveling the ground.
Yeah. See,
And it was grassroots. He started on his own. He
Yeah.
came over and got guys out of the bar, helped put fences up, and
that goes what we were talking about. Is you take that one person,
Yeah.
point something
Yeah.
good. Want to do something.
and someday his name should really be recognized over there.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. Did you know that?
I did.
you know that?
Yeah, no, he
You know,
is
I know
no.
Don's got a.
I mean,
name on
you
a
can
field
ask-
out there.
I was there with him and I saw it. Tom Parks, he's not here, he's Jack Pettit. Both are land or bar owners, but they dragged some guys out of the bar and we would go over and help him
Yeah.
get things going.
a good way to get things done before they got liquored up.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Fricke.
It's early enough.
Bring a barrel beer. Bring a barrel beer. Drink some beer while you're doing it over there.
So have you guys, as far back as your history is, have you guys ever worked on like a project together?
No, I don't think so. When he rebuilt this place, I put the heating and air conditioning in it. But other than that, I don't think so.
Is that why it never really works very good?
It's always cold in here.
Cold or hot, warranty's over. But you've never, even like not maybe a for-profit endeavor, but just like something like
No.
No.
still time.
Yeah.
There's still
We'll
time.
wait
I'm
till he
retired.
sells the place.
I'm
And he'll
retired.
have
If he
more
wants
time.
to eat, I'll help him out. I'm a jack of all trades. I can about do anything he wants me to help out.
That's true.
So speaking of, we have kind of a list here of, Mary, do you want us to go through kind of what we have coming up? So Mary's like, yes, please go through the list that I typed up for you. So I don't know if you guys, because this Halloween egg hunt, have you guys ever been to the Halloween egg hunt?
No.
Okay. I wouldn't think so, because that'd be kind of weird. So we have that Monday, October 24th at 5 p.m. 5:30, my air. So it's a well-attended, hundreds and hundreds of kids. I always thought, how do we come up with a Halloween egg hunt? It's like Easter. That's something like Bruce would come up with. Tim's sitting in here for a couple hours. I have a great idea. But that's very well attended.
Well, very well.
And then we have the pumpkin walk October 29th, and then the Holy But the Goody trick or treating on Halloween from this rain or shine. So let's hope we have some of the events coming up. Did you guys go to October? Did you go to Bulldog Park? Any of the events at Bulldog Park?
No, I don't.
Yeah, I've been down there a little bit. More when it first started, not speaking of the last year or so.
So it's all the summer concerts.
It's also crowded. It's pretty crowded
Well, we
down
tried
there.
some different. We did women's roller derby this year, which was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
That's Roger Olenkamp's daughter was in there.
Really?
Yeah.
They were fantastic. And then we did some national comedians come out and do comedy.
That was really good. Those comedians
They
were great.
roasted.
They did too. So.
We gave them a lot of dirt prior to.
Lots of ammo. Lots of expanded.
But we're trying to find those niches, the beer and the drinking fest for everybody. So
Well, you guys are doing a great job. Crown Point is really humming.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
It is, and it's all good.
Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah, with the sports facilities and the Bulldog facility.
Yep, without doubt.
Yeah, it does bring family stuff together, especially at Bulldog Park. There's plenty of things to do down there for
That's what I've always said, that
multitude of different.
you don't have to leave Crown Point if you don't want to. You
Right.
have a family, everything's here for you. You got the
Yeah.
sports, you got dining, you got all the entertainment, you got everything that you want. You don't have to go to another community to experience anything.
Yeah,
So,
and like I was giving an interview today, and they're like, "How do you define Crown Point?" And it's hard to explain, but it's getting larger population-wise, but it still has that smaller sense of community with all the festivals and hometown. And then you have to come to the downtown square and experience it.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
all the history of the jail and the notorious history with the jail. So it's just very biased, but it's a great community. So.
Sure, it has been.
So I can't thank you guys
Has
enough.
been.
Part of the, all the fans of the show. Part of the show is all the guests have to bring something for the drop table, so they're always displayed in the background. We'll have graphics because our graphics department owns this airs.
Yeah.
Really nice graphics in the background.
Is this open, Bruce? Is this like
No.
like here?
Well, I figured
Bruce, thank you very much for-
Office would be it's a brand new bowling pin. It's never been hit.
Yeah. So we'll have.
Especially it's our last year. It will be a true relic someday.
We gotta get a Sharpie of that sign.
Yeah. So you guys can both sign it. That would be great. So thank you very much, Bruce. I
Yeah,
appreciate
thanks
it.
for having me.
And then
Thanks
Tim,
for
you
having me
brought
down.
the picture of the.
That picture hung in my parents' hallway from somewhere in the 60s. And when we broke down my dad's house, I took that, and I've never hung it up anywhere, so you're welcome to have it.
Oh, that'll definitely be hung up. I'll hang that up in my office.
It's heavy, it's real heavy, it's got a wooden.
Plus, it comes from the guy that started Old Foundation.
Yeah, good
Yeah, it
point.
was in
Very
his,
true.
it was in his hallway.
So that's a true relic.
Yeah.
I can't, that's a great, yeah, that's great, so appreciate that, thank you so much. So, and thank you for the crowd, that you guys were very well behaved. So,
Yes, they were.
yep. So, thank you for that.
There's
All right.
Radar. There's my
Radar.
brother.
There he is.
Brother, yeah.
There's Radar.
He was my, one of my teachers at Taft Middle School.
Yep.
Back in the day. Well, Taft Junior High.
That's right. Might as well.
So thank you again. So it's been a great October edition of Lay of the Land podcast, and this will be released the third Tuesday of the month, which is what date? Putting you on the spot, I know.
I believe it's the 18th.
Mary has no idea.
It's the 18th.
She checked out a long time ago.
A week before Election Day.
18th.
18th. So
Today is the month.
we will look forward to its release. So
The
thanks
18th
for
of-
letting us use your space.
It'll be
Really?
Yeah, thanks for being here.
Great
It was
show.
fun.
So
Good luck.
until next time, everybody take care of yourself and be kind to one another. So we'll see you in November. Thank you.
You've been listening to Lay of the Land with Crown Point Mayor Pete Land and Chief of Staff Anthony Schlueter. If you like what you heard today, come hang out with us on the third Tuesday of every month. Lay of the Land is available on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. We'll see you next time.